तो नहने में जाना है
शेयर के
स्लाइड।
लेफ्ट, हाँ जी, ये बिल्कुल, हाँ
हाँ,
ठीक है।
so this is part of a large presentation, and this includes the first part of what we are trying to say. So, as I was talking about yesterday, about various ways how the things evolved and other thing, but the ideal thing should be to understand the concept of homeostasis first. That would actually make people more appreciative of the whole evolutionary pathway. I know most of us have known what is homeostasis from our first years of medical college, but let me again do some recapitulation. It is a self regulatory process by which biological systems tend to maintain stability while adjusting to the conditions that are optimum for survival. So, what does that mean? That means that there is an internal environment in every organism. That internal organism needs to be within a certain parameter for any organism to survive. If the internal environment parameters are disturbed, then the survivability of the organism would be compromised until and unless a new equilibrium is reached and the internal environment again goes into a survivable stage. We might say that we are human being and we are the apex predator of earth ecosystem because we have opposable thumb, we have uh, a high level of prefrontal cortex, but most probably all of these came in the first place because we have a huge homeostatic range. Let me give you an example you would understand. Let me take up animal, let's say a Himalayan goat living in high altitude, and place it in the any of the desert environment. What would happen? The goat, although would get some foraging material, would not be able to live much because its body is inherently incapable of living in the desert heat. But let me transfer a person who is living in Tibetan plateau to a desert. What would happen? That person would have a kind of altitude sickness, but with rest that can be recovered. Also, the person would be able to live in the environment quite well if the necessary foraging environment is there and the person can create a sort of food and drink for themselves. That is what our survivability range is, and that is how much our internal homeostasis can adjust. And this is why our ability to change our homeostatic parameters would also be a very good reason that why human beings are in every corner of earth, and also why they are most probably the apex predator of earth ecosystem. Now, in case of, if we understand the concept of homeostasis, then in case of unicellular organism, we can understand that it can easily be mediated by the cell surface receptor, effectors, and intercellular signal transduction pathway. In case of, let's say, water, they would take it inside and then they would assimilate in their cell environment. In case of substance absorption and excretion, they would take it, they would digest it, and they would excrete it. Then there is a surface level receptor for ion exchange, then gaseous exchange. Then, whenever there is a need in the environment, the organism would be able to create extensions and move away from any uncomfortable situation or move towards any desirable situation. So for a unicellular organism, all it needs is cell surface receptor, intracellular pathway, and a nucleus which would determine what to be done next. But when the simple monocellular organism evolved into multicellular and complex organism, then lot of changes have happened. The receptors, the effectors, and the control centers of various cells, they would start clashing with each other because what suits one cell might not be suiting other cells. And ultimately, this clash would lead to impaired survival. Then, if one part of their body is facing some adverse condition and they need to move towards other area, then they need to send that to their motor parts and other area, which would be very slow because the cell to cell transmission speed in organisms it is not that high, and that would again cause diminished survivability. So for that, a separate high speed dedicated information cellular system evolved to suit this need. This high speed dedicated information carrying cellular system is the nervous system. Initial neural system is simple, net-like assembly, and dedicated nervous loop for each individual aspect of the environment. So for pH, there would be one loop. For energy, there would be one loop. For water, there would be one loop. For various other need, there would be another loop. And as we can see here, in Hydra, it is just a nerve net. In sea star, that became slightly more complex. And there is a central nervous ring and radial nerves. Each radial nerve is actually one ring dedicated to one aspect of internal environment. Then in flatworm, the early brain has already started forming, in insect too, and in all other chitinous organism. In case of squid, they went into a further area they created one brain, and giant axons create peripherally distributed nervous system that increase their survivability, but at the expense of their ability to adjust to various environmental criteria. And then with vertebrate, the brain has finally formed, spinal cord is there, and all the sensory systems have organized to create a central nervous system. And this central nervous system came because individual centers became very, very complex, and they needed to be in close proximity. And for that, the CNS ultimately was formed. Now, so far, if we understand this part, we can understand that this is how the original central nervous system evolution was done to maintain the homeostasis, to maintain the survivability. And in each successive layer of evolution, more complex environments were introduced. Initially, it was just external environment consisting of physical elements. As the organism started forming groups and started to live together, external social environment also got layered over the physical environment, and the need of social environment made the brain, specifically the neocortex, which is nothing but delicate interaction between various regulatory loops, more and more complex because social environment needs very precise and instantaneous adjustment between the various parameters of internal environment. So this leads to basis of stress response system. Homeostasis is just a balance between external environment and internal environment. It is a dynamic functional balance. Now, brain or the CNS is the main controlling organ of homeostasis. And how it does can be defined as allostasis. Unfortunately, allostasis has been plagued with a lot of interference from non-medical non-biological subjects, and it has undergone a lot of definition and other thing. But for scientific purpose, allostasis is the number of measures that brain takes to make the homeostatic balance normal. So, what are the allostatic pathways? Allostatic pathways would be those pathways which control the whole body and arises from the brain. That can be autonomic nervous system, neuroendocrine system, immune system, and other regulatory nervous system. In other regulatory nervous system, there is cortical regulation, subcortical regulation, spinal regulation, and peripheral nervous system regulation. So from here, we would go into how we understand this in from our brain working. And that can only happen when we physiologically determine what happens when brain faces stress. Now, stress is another very nebulous word. What a philosopher understand by stress is not stress in biomedical term. What a sociologist understand by stress is not stress in biomedical form. What a physicist understand by stress is close to biomedical understanding of stress, but not really biomedical stress. So we need a definition of stress which would make us understand how body processes stress. So for biomedical understanding, we have to understand that there is a personalized functional range of brain micromanagement to control homeostasis. Within that range, different areas of brain and their interconnections don't have to exert themselves to control the body homeostasis while performing normal daily life works. That range is the normal functional range of brain. Now, what when there is a demand on brain to perform outside this personalized function range, then the brain has to work harder because otherwise the disturbance of homeostasis would not be controlled. And this challenge is known as stress. There are a sequence of events that happens at gross molecular and gross physiological level. The neuronal connection between various brain areas start working excessively to carry the increased information because increased functional demand for nervous system is nothing but increased information carrying load. So any increased information carrying load would lead the neuronal network to go into hyperactivity. This hyperactivity would cause hyperactivity of each unit of neuronal connection, which is various neuronal cell bodies and axon and dendrites. And hyperactivity of these areas means hypermetabolism. The main areas which are going to work to adjust to the specific demand, they are working more, but the rest of the brains has to contribute too because no organ in any animal body works in a singular area pattern. Means when we take a breath, not only a single upper lobe of lung is working, every lobe, every alveoli, everything is working together. When heart pumps, not only atrium or not only ventricle pumps, as a whole, every myocyte contribute to it. Similarly, when brain works, every part of brain works. Our understanding that this part is working, this part is not working. The in case of, let's say, we have created a name default mode network, and when the human being is in resting state, only that area is active. Not right. That area is more active. The other areas are less active, but whole brain is active. Default mode network activation doesn't mean the rest of the brain has shut down itself. Each step we go in psychiatry, we fight with unnecessary dogma, unnecessary misinformation, unnecessary wrong understanding. Anyway, so this hyperactivation of neuronal cells occurs because of increased information process. And increased information process means there is electricity. And hyperactivity of cells needs energy to maintain, new proteins to maintain, a lot of transcriptional activity, goes up. And this is known as electrical transcriptional coupling, a very interesting part in bioelectricity of brain, because most of the psychiatric symptoms that patients report are actually changes and dysfunction in this electrical transcriptional coupling. So next part onwards, it would be more and more dive into more molecular pathways, more other things. But before going into there, I have to go back to the evolution again. And I have to first follow the gross outline of this cellular and molecular changes so that you would understand how evolution is linked to it. So I am stopping sharing and starting a new presentation. Hmm. So I am now closing. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see.
So I am starting on sickness behavior, because fitness behavior is how we understand these deeper molecular and various physiological changes.